Good morning, friends. My name's Rod Peppiatt, Minister of the Word at the Avenue Uniting Church in Blackburn, Victoria. Each Sunday and in between, we meet on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. Today, our worship will focus on yesterday, in fact, the Anzac Day commemorations in our nation and New Zealand. I want to read to you, to begin with, a passage from John's Gospel, taken from Jesus' trial before Pilate at the end of his life. Then Pilate entered the headquarters again, summoned Jesus and asked him, "Are you king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "Do you ask this on your own, or did others tell you about me?" Pilate replied, "Well, I'm not a Jew, am I? Your own nation and the chief priests have handed you over to me. What have you done?" Jesus answered, "My kingdom is not from this world. If my kingdom were from this world, my followers would be fighting to keep me being handed over to the Jews. But as it is, my kingdom is not from here." Pilate asked him, "So you are a king?" Jesus answered, "You say that I'm a king. For this I was born, and for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who belongs to the truth listens to my voice." And then a contemporary reading of grace, as is our practice here at the Avenue each week. This week it comes from Richard Holdsworth, and it's called Wage Peace. Wage peace, to acknowledge faith, declare love, confess failure, expose injustice, admit mistakes. Wage peace, to relinquish control, to drop bias, accept outsiders, open thoughts, ease stress, cease turmoil. Wage peace, to make amends, seek forgiveness, give forgiveness, let go blame. Wage peace, to stop fighting, cease resentment, resolve conflicts, forget revenge. May living peace inspire us, resting peace refresh us, growing peace support us, abiding peace relieve us, quietness reveal us, harmony restore us, to wage incessant peace. I mentioned that Anzac Day, or yesterday was Anzac Day here in Australia and New Zealand. With people around Australia and New Zealand, we say on Anzac Day, "Lest we forget," so that we might remember and remember peace. Let me add one other short verse from John's Gospel to the one I read. "Peace be with you," said Jesus. "My own peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled or dismayed." I believe that peace is important to our way of thinking. That's a given. I believe that recognising days like Anzac Day have a place in our life as a worshipping community. I must say I haven't always thought so. But I dare to believe that I've grown just a little wiser over the years, a bit less interested in specifying what's of God and what's of the world, with a great big line down the middle. And I've become more interested in seeing the sacred presence in the midst of all things, even in the horror of war. I'm not saying that war is godly by any means. I'll never say that. But I will declare my conviction that even in war, we might just catch a glimpse of what is godly when we see compassion, courage, and holy love. Anzac Day is complex. I want to show you an image from a place that Catherine and I visited with our daughter in 2017. We're very low tech here, but that's okay. It's in the French city of Arras. It's called La Carrière Wellington, and in English, that is the Wellington Tunnel. The tunnel is about 20 metres underground in a network of 19 kilometres of tunnels built under the city. Centuries old, reopened and expanded in 1917. And thousands of soldiers were billeted in the tunnels for 8 days before the start of the Arras offensive on the 9th of April 1917. This is a makeshift altar that was in the middle, or nearly at the end actually, of that tunnel. At 5:30 on the 9th of April 1917, exits were dynamited to enable the troops to storm the German trenches. The Germans were taken by surprise and were pushed back 11 kilometres. This counted as an extraordinary success by the standards of the time. But the offensive, like nearly all of them, soon bogged down, and it was eventually called off after casualties reached 4,000 a day. 100 years and a few months later, I stood before this makeshift altar, and I tried to get my head around all that it represented. It was used in a dawn service the day before the attack, an Easter Day dawn service. So many of these soldiers had been confronted and comforted, I should say, by the promise and hope of Easter in worship. Such a short time before losing their lives in the horror of this bloody violence. Standing before this altar created a myriad of confused thoughts and feelings within me, and I was literally struck dumb for a while. I could only hang on to Catherine and Rhiannon and attend to what was going on in my head and my heart. All those young people killed by the Caesars and the empires of their day. All those young people, the ones who survived, like my grandfathers, who carried the scars for the rest of their lives. Another image, another war. Just make sure I get it right so you can see it. This comes from Berlin and the Bernauer Strasse, Bernau Street. After the fall of Berlin in 1945, this street was the border between US and Russian zones. In 1961, a wall was built along this street, and Bernauer Strasse was the symbol of a city divided. The Chapel of Reconciliation that's in this photo was begun not long after the wall came down, and it was completed in 2000. Should mention the wall came down in 1989. The chapel too is quite stark, but it had for me a profound and breathtaking beauty. It dares to stand for peace. It's a round building, very simple, as you can see there, and right in its centre, I should go there, is the bowl of baptism, the gift of peace. in a place once torn to shreds by division and by war, both hot and cold, this stands for unity and for peace. My kingdom is not of this world, Jesus told Pilate. If it was, my followers would be fighting to keep me from being handed over. He could have easily continued, but that's your kingdom's way, not mine. Perhaps he did say that, who knows? It can be hard to remember peace, can't it? And to remember it, put it back together, to dream it, to imagine it, to live it, rather than being overwhelmed by all that works against it. I'm regularly confronted by what Anzac Day has become in some ways in recent years. For me, it's been turned into something political, jingoistic and kind of self-serving, all about empire, which I don't find respectful of the people who have served our nation, whom I deeply respect. Perhaps even worse, it's become commercialised. And so the sale of Australian flags and all sorts of things seem to attach themselves to it just as much as other days. And today, in particular, I'm grieving our nation because of the booing that happened as faithful Indigenous people welcomed or acknowledged the country on which celebrations, commemorations were led. But at the same time, I still believe and I hope that Anzac Day offers our nation an invitation to reflect and to remember with honesty and with dignity the hopes that it carried in the beginning and can still carry today. That's why I decided to make it part of our worship today, because it speaks of peace. It speaks of the truth of the good people who have come home from the calamities of so many wars and somehow put their lives back together. If we listen, it also might help us to hear the truth of the ex-servicemen and women who struggled to do that, who found it impossible to hold their memories and to hold their scars. It's no coincidence, I believe, that many of our ex-servicemen and women take their own life at a rate 5 times that of the population in general. But at the same time as that, it also speaks the truth of the young servicemen and women of today who serve not only in times of war, but also in times of crisis, offering humanitarian aid in Australia and overseas. Anzac Day is complex, just as faith and life are complex. That kind of complexity is what I spoke about a few minutes ago when I talked about hopefully growing wiser, was recognising that it's really not helpful to have a black and white position on it. And that kind of complexity is also why I refer to what I do each Sunday as a witness to the Word. It's my understanding, my experience, my reflection, my witness to the way of God we glimpse in Jesus, rather than me trying to explain the gospel to people often older and wiser than me. Life and faith are complex. And I'm deeply grateful to have fellow travellers on the way to work at that complexity together, to point each other to signs of faith in the life we share. That altar in Arras, that baptismal font in Berlin, Remind me that we are baptized into the life and the way of the peacemaker. Not an easy way. In fact, often tough beyond comprehension. But if we dare to walk it, let's remember that we do so in great company. Jesus told Pilate, "My kingdom isn't like yours." He told his friends, "Peace be with you. My own peace I give you. I do not give to you peace as the world gives. Let not your hearts be troubled or dismayed." And to read once again the last part of our contemporary reading of Grace from Richard Holdsworth. May living peace inspire us, resting peace refresh us, growing peace support us, abiding peace relieve us, quietness reveal us, and harmony restore us to wage incessant peace. In the name and the way of the risen Christ. Amen. Namaste. Blessings.